was the debut speech heard round the world, Donald Trump at the United Nations, putting America first and other nations on notice.
If the righteous many do not confront the wicked few, then evil will triumph.
Over the course of 41 minutes, the president criticized the Iran nuclear deal, promised to, quote, totally destroy North Korea if Rocketman continues on his path, and vowed to crush the loser terrorists in the Middle East. Sweden's foreign minister called it a bombastic nationalist speech, given at the wrong time to the wrong audience. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, on the other hand, declared, in over 30 years in my experience with the UN, I never heard a bolder or more courageous speech. Here to break the tie is Nicholas Burns, former ambassador to NATO and Undersecretary of State under George W. Bush. He also served as ambassador to Greece under Clinton. He's now a professor at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government. Ambassador. It's good to see you.
Thanks,
so
Jim.
were you doing like this or were you doing like this?
I was doing like this.
Why?
It's a big stage. Maybe the most important speech, some people said today in the press, since his inaugural speech. You have about 100 of your colleagues there, all these world leaders. And he was right to say that North Korea has been a major problem and is threatening the world with a nuclear holocaust. He was right to call out the Russians and Chinese for aiding and abetting the North Koreans. But the shrill and bombastic language, the I will totally destroy North Korea, calling him Rocketman. It sounds funny, but can you imagine Eisenhower or Reagan getting down in the mosh pit with Kim Jong-Un and a name-calling exercise? It wouldn't happen. And we were talking before, the president needs to know the difference between a rally to the Trump faithful in Phoenix and the United Nations General Assembly.
But is it that much different than your former boss's axis of evil, which included two of the countries that, I mean, it was not quite as, to use the word we both use, bombastic, but it was a calling out kind of speech then and now. I know that wasn't at the UN, but are they really that different?
The axis of evil was a mistake. You didn't want to group those three countries together back in 2002, the year after 9/11. But it's okay to go after North Korea. We want our presidents to stand up to them. In fact, what we need to do is practice strategic deterrence. The North Koreans need to know that the United States will respond militarily if they attack us. But the president seemed, I think he gave away that high road the other day with this very tough, aggressive, militaristic language. Our presidents generally will say, Eisenhower say, Reagan, George H.W. Bush, three Republicans, we will defend our country. We'll defend our allies. Make no mistake. They don't say, we're going to destroy you militarily. Words are very important, especially when they're being translated in international politics.
But isn't it possible it might work as well? I mean, while you're comparing what Donald Trump said to some of his predecessors, few of his predecessors have dealt with someone exactly like Kim Jong-Un. And isn't it just possible this is what he needs to hear to respond in the way we all want him to respond? You don't seem to think so.
I don't, for this reason. We assume that Kim Jong-un is rational. Therefore, he's going to understand that we're more powerful than he is. But you don't want him to mistake what we're going to do. You don't want him to think that we might initiate an attack, because that might lead him to initiate first, to strike us first. General Mattis, Secretary Mattis, Secretary of Defense, has been very strong, but he's been measured. He said, we will respond if you attack Japan or South Korea or U.S. forces in the region. But we're not looking to replace North Korea. We're looking to negotiate. There was none of the equilibrium that you want from a president, statesman-like measures.
Lay people like me call that good cop, bad cop. That's not the kind of thing you subscribe to.
In the nuclear age, you want clarity. You want them to fully understand what we will do or not do, because you can't take a chance that he's going to misunderstand you.
I want to give you 10 seconds. We drew this little 10-second piece from 2 minutes of Donald Trump's speech. I want to get your reaction. Here it is.
Protect their sovereignty, embrace their sovereignty, sovereign duties, sovereign nation, sovereign, strong, sovereign nations.
I don't know how many times it was. This is a lot in 2 minutes. I'm sure I'm not the only one that said the greatest threat to American sovereignty is the one thing he didn't mention, Russian interference in our election. Am I not right in that regard?
You are right about that. The country that has, in essence, attacked us in a way is Russia. In the 2016 elections, they attacked our electoral system in a sophisticated cyber campaign. And this sovereignty issue, I think he used the word over 20 times, it's really a code of sorts for America first. We're pulling back. We're a country that will protect our own interests. Don't count on us to be a global leader on issues like climate change. Big issue this week in New York. There was a big summit And the United States was not at that summit. It's the issue that most people would say overseas is of greatest importance to them, and we're not helping.
Can you mentioned General Mattis a minute ago. A number of people I know who were very nervous about Donald Trump and foreign policy are comforted by the fact that he seems to have level-headed generals around him. Steve Kinzer, I'm sure you saw in the Globe this week, said it's almost like a military coup. He doesn't agree with that at all. Where are you on all the generals in all these important spots?
2 points. I am reassured by General Kelly, General Mattis, General McMaster. These are good people. They're smart. They're professional. They're patriotic. And they're adults. If they don't agree with the president, they'll do what they should do, which is speak truth to power. Every president needs to have people like that. I think that Secretary Mattis in particular has been a constraining presence on North Korea. He's tough as nails. And we shouldn't give in to the North Koreans, but he's measured in what he says and how he says it. On the other hand, I think the weakness of this administration, Jim, they have not invested in the career foreign service, our career diplomats. And we are a civilian-led system of government. The military reports to civilian power. There is, I think, it's not a good idea to overload your entire national security team with generals.
Can we speak briefly about the State Department where you used to serve? The conventional wisdom is that Nikki Haley is becoming the UN ambassador, the de facto Secretary of State. Tillerson is being pushed aside. Do you talk to your former colleagues about what morale level is there, how they feel about this dissing of Rex Tillerson? What do they say to you?
They're discouraged because the administration is proposing a 31% budget cut, because the administration hasn't invested in them, because the great majority of senior-level diplomatic positions have gone unfilled. Yeah. And so this great national jewel, Jim, the Foreign Service, they know the world better than anybody in the U.S. government. The Trump administration is not using them.
Let's talk about Iran for a second. Yesterday, the deal was an embarrassment for the United States, according to Donald Trump. His words today, and by the way, at the time we tape this, we don't know if later today he will act. He says, I know what I'm going to do. I'll let you know. I'll let you know. Played Nostradamus for me, Ambassador. What's he going to do and why?
Trump's going to do 2 things. He's right to say that Iran's a major danger to Israel, Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, because it is. Iran's making a major push for power in the Sunni world, and we ought to be pushing back, not so much militarily, but organizing countries to oppose it. I think the president's not correct. If he wants to withdraw from the nuclear deal, I think he'll try to. Because what will happen if we withdraw from the nuclear deal? Iran already has relief from all the international sanctions. And if we withdraw, the deal folds, and all the restrictions on the Iran program go away, that's a very bad deal for us.
Are we closer to war today than we were 24 hours ago, 36 hours ago?
I don't think so with North Korea, because the North Koreans understand that we will respond with overwhelming force. I don't think the probability of war is high there. What you have to worry about is an accidental conflict. It gets back to the initial conversation we had. Words are really important. You have to mean what you say in international politics.
Ambassador Nicholas Burns, great to see you as always. Thanks for your perspective.